alternative news for 20 or so. And Russ Dizdar has some things that I have never heard before in my life. And he's going to be at the next year of the Watchman Conference, which is this weekend, guys. If you can get to Knoxville, get there. There's still a few seats left. If you cannot make it to Knoxville, that's fine. Go to hearthewatchman.com, click the live stream event, enter code Tully, and they'll knock off $10 for you. And you can watch it all there and even keep it as an archive for 30 days in case you miss anything. But Russ, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, Josh, doing very good. Thank you for having us here. I look forward to seeing you this week.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing you, too. Now, you speak on a topic that just sends chills down my spine. You have this book, The Black Awakening, and when I last saw you, I got a copy of this. Oh, my gosh, man. It's like we haven't even scratched the surface with most alternative media as to what's really going on.
Well, it comes from just a
How can I help?
mean, on the one hand, we started doing deliverances and stuff like that back in 1979. But we engaged what we call now a chosen one. Satanic ritual abuse is the process. But and others have called them super soldiers, Josh. And they're when we began to do them, it was just a matter of seeing them come to Christ, come to healing, come to deliverance. But there was so much complexity. They've been split into different personalities. They've been programmed. They've been demonized. They know ancient languages. So in the beginning, it was strange for us. But I committed back in 1980 to I just said, Lord, I'll go. I'll go as far as you want me to with this. Well, that's many years ago, we've dealt with hundreds. And the underground, it's like I liken it to Ezekiel 28, where God just led Ezekiel down into a tunnel and opened a door and literally showed him the underground. So we have been dealing with the victims to help them ever since that time. But we also have built
a real-life super soldier program. It looks like you can't believe what you read in comics.
Where did this start? So when we talk about victims, we're talking about highly trained individuals.
Welcome to Variant Real Comics more than Swiss loves Wendy Peppercorn. I'm your host,
where they come from is
since all of us were kids, we've always been told by our parents that what we see in comics isn't real. For instance, when I was 6, I tried climbing up the second story banister, and my mom yelled at me, "What do you think, you're Spider-Man or something? Get off that! Spider-Man's not real." But today I'm going to talk about DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, and how they're working on making soldiers into pretty much real-life superheroes. So, take that, parents. Like I just mentioned, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency is working on a super soldier program, a $3 billion super soldier program to be exact. The project got started to help make a metabolically dominant soldier. So, in layman's terms, the military is studying on how to use technology and biology to combine man, machine, and science to transcend the limits of the human body. The project director was actually quoted saying, "My measure of success is that the International Olympic Committee bans everything we do." So basically, he wants to create soldiers that are so beyond any normal person's limits, they would be considered superhuman, and therefore wouldn't be allowed to compete in the Olympics.
We actually have a
scary
list
and a dream
of
come
stuff
through
here
all
that
at the
we
same
wanted to
time.
kind of bring up,
Yes, we'd have real life
things
Captain
that
Americas,
DARPA has
but
come out with, because
let's face it, it's only a
I
matter
think
of time.
all the time in the news we're seeing people talk about how DARPA came up with this new thing this week and it's super awesome. It's the new, big dog robot that can throw a cinder block with a metal arm that comes out of its head. Who needs that, by the way? And so they're all the time coming out with these robots and things and it's talking about how trendy and super cool it is. But we wanted to actually talk about some of the other stuff they're doing. And then as we're mentioning these things and talking about them, think about them all together. Think about how these interact with each other and how that affects us. Okay, so not only are they making all these robots, they've got jumping robots, swimming robots, climbing robots, they've got robots that dodge obstacles, they've got 6-legged robots, there's a cheetah that's the fastest robot ever made, there's a robot ape that climbs trees, they've got a robo-ostrich they're doing lifelike humanoid robots, and they also have this weapons they come out with, like they have death ray lasers, actual death ray lasers, not FBI paid for guy in a basement building at death ray lasers, but actual ones with unlimited magazines that they're going to start putting on drones. But here's some other stuff they're also doing that you may or may not be aware of. This story also came out. They were hacking into a squid's central nervous system. They were using electric signals to force the squid to change its colors. So they were basically perfecting mind control in the squid. They're also studying our fight or flight response.
And he has an emergency update to bring. So I am obliged to share with you this latest topic. I'm not quite sure what this is about, but Peter, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. The situation is like we've got a real emergency because the guy who, the name wasn't publicly so well known, because it's always like, okay, it's just a video game and all kind of stuff, but he's very well known right now in gamers world, right?
Or ended up in the wrong hands, and boom, we have real-life supervillains. As far as what they're working on gear, gadgets, and suits that are things Tony Stark would make. The wearable gear was able running at 100-meter Olympic sprinter speeds for hours on end.
Of very recently released game Mafia 3. The situation is that he's head officer and key man in outsourcing of training and advancing of super soldiers for practically, all worldwide.
They want to explore the neuroscience of our threat responses, to use neuroeconomic models to study the way we move and how that changes when we're faced with threats.
And
to put those two things together, they're taking mind control with electric signals, and they're studying our fight or flight response.
Armies, right? And special military units. Known one, secret one, it doesn't matter. The situation is that in last 1 month, maybe 6 weeks, there is extremely huge increase of, if we wanna to say it that way, of production of extremely high trained super soldiers. What means that something big is
along with giving the person a 7-foot vertical leap. The capability of wall crawling, which, being the huge Spider-Man fan I am, I say heck yes to that one. Also, flight and hand strength, which is probably the two top things people would want if asked what superpowers they could have. Not to mention invisibility and being able to carry huge weapons on your back, kind of like War Machine. But I did say this was a super soldier program, meaning they're trying to alter the genes within our bodies to make humans stronger and superhuman without the help of gadgets. And I meant what I said, because I don't lie, and also because they're doing just that. They're working...
intelligent agencies, people who can do some channeling and all kind of stuff is listening to this, all.
To me, the only reason they would need that is to be able to shut it off. Moving on, Regina Dugan came out recently. She's a former DARPA head, but she now is the leader of special projects for Motorola, which is owned by Google. And this is, she says, this is a quote, "We got to do a lot of epic expletive when I was at DARPA." And she says, now they're even doing better stuff. And she was showing her electronic tattoo that she has. So it's an electronic tattoo. It's a barcode on her arm, and she was showing that off. And how that can be used to authenticate your password, or authenticate you online and everything, instead of using a password. So if this is not the mark of the beast, if it's not in any way, why does it seem like they're basically taking that page out of Revelations and using it? I mean, right? And she went on to say that they also have vitamin authentication, which is a pill that you swallow, and your whole body then becomes your password.
It's incredible, and just part of that technology, I know a lot of it's based on gaming theory, which probably does play into video games, but I know it principally means being able to predict your response as you mentioned. And that means knowing the most likely options, whether it's 2, 3, 4 options, whether it's multiple choice, and basically planning for that response in a prioritized list. I mean, maybe you saw the headline from last year in 2012, new algorithm predicts your future movements within 65 feet of accuracy. And they found that essentially we repeat the same basic movements on average over and over, go to the same basic corner store, the same job location, the same home or apartment location, same base of friends. And if they're tracking that on your cell phone or on your Facebook updates or through an implant chip, they can pretty much predict what you're likely to do next as well. And thwarting that really would take some effort, I think.
They're going to move beyond that. They're actually working on something called biometrics at a distance. So that's going to build a sensor that can remotely identify you farther away, tell you out from a crowd, sense your heartbeat through a wall. I mean, that's beyond just censoring you. But, yeah, I mean, this list, I don't even know what I should get to next. There's so many.
Did you talk about the internet yet?
I'm not to that part yet. Oh, yeah, they want to, let's see, what was that?
You know,
they're going to learn to control a rat's brain over the internet. Actually, they already have. It says the government mind control may not be as far-fetched as it sounds. After 15 years of research, they found a way to transmit information from one brain to another.
Would make you like the god of thunder Thor, where you can operate without sleep for days, without lack of performance. They're even talking about fixing your cells so that you can live off your fat, which sounds gross, but it's cool at the same time. They're saying spin-off drugs can also be made from it to use in the $40 billion a year weight loss industry in the U.S. So imagine you don't play all the Call of Duty Halo you want, or sitting down on some Red Bull, Mountain Dew, and never gain weight. It sounds like a dream to me. What's also major focus is helping soldiers' bodies to heal better with trauma and physical injury. One idea in development is a pain vaccine. Researchers are hopeful that this vaccine will be able to block the sense of pain for almost a month. It would block the pain in less than 10 seconds. So let's say you're in war, you get stabbed, you only feel the pain for less than 10 seconds before the vaccine kicks in, and then boom, no more pain. It supposedly doesn't stifle your reactions either. If you were to touch a hot stove, you still would have the initial shock. Your hand would automatically jerk away. But after that, the pain would be gone. Doctor says they've already hit its first milestones in animal testing and are preparing reports for scientific conferences. One of my favorite things that they're developing is something that's straight out of Marvel Comic Shield. They're making new body armor that's filled with nanomaterials that are connected to a computer. It's basically computer-controlled liquid armor. It would normally be as flexible as a regular uniform made fabric, but like how airbags work in car crashes, it would act.
It would be the Nephilim blood. I mean, this is what they believe, whether we believe it or not. They believe they are being guided to backbreed so that they can reproduce what they called God men. And that's history. That's what they attempted. What we didn't know was the details of that. And, of course, after the war in the mid-40s, then, you know, that was kind of, we thought it was off the table. Well, what occurred was when Himmler began to do this, his goal was to have 200 million super soldiers for the future, so that when they conquered the world, they have a 1,000-year reign. They would rule and reign with these soldiers. They would be stronger, faster. And again, their version, God-men, small g. So when the war was over, the rat lions took the Nazis, the SS, the scientists all over the world. And 25 years later, all of a sudden, we have these individuals showing up in psych wards and counseling centers. At first, they're diagnosed as schizophrenic, but then they realize, no, these are not. The American Psychological Association, and worldwide, by the way, they had to decide, hey, who are these people? Because they're showing up by the hundreds in the 70s, then by the tens of thousands in the 80s. The estimates were into the millions in the 90s. And just where are these coming from? So they diagnosed them in a secular fashion called
AMKS Goddess Radio, saying what you think, but too afraid to say your heart.
dissociative identity disorder. And they also recognize that the process was
fabric could even be used into nano-lusting fibers that would create muscle giving machines that would create 25 to 35% better in lithium capability. So pretty much what I'm saying is this is possible as well. Things are using things like standalone and all the other reasons right?
Where did they come from and why?
Exactly, that's quickly become the online shopping destination. This is why everything on the site is up to 80% off for full price for suckers. They serve up pillow confectionery and sweet sale, accessories, and gadgets for wearing like Converse and bucks. Shopping is super simple and all styles appeal, so all you need just doesn't happen. There's a newer band you can skip the membership
Guys, radio. Super soldiers. Super soldiers. Super soldiers. Super soldiers.
They were always innovating. We did the first double flash tape, and there were none before. We thought that the format of the conference had to have a little balance, and the double flash tape was a jump creation of what it is. So there you have it. So next time you see an awesome double flash tape in comics, you can thank Mr. Joe Simon. That's good.
Super soldiers. Super soldiers.
This is something that Obama announced brains project.
These individuals. We'll dig into that right after this whole thing. We're talking to West Disco. I'm going to give you a few websites. BlackAwakening.com, RegulexRadio.com, and the ShatterTheDarkness.net. Now, Russ, when we were talking about these satanic super soldiers, how did they actually create them? Was this done through genetic manipulation? Was it done through some sort of weird cultic sex ritual? How did they create these first initial super soldiers?
Sure, it goes back again to the late 30s. In Germany, under the Nazis, they had what was called Lebensborn, source of life. So they believed that they could, with spiritual enhancements, I mean, what they would do in that day, from what we've read anyway, and what we've discussed with some Germans, was they would want to do it on some kind of certain cultic holiday or in a cemetery or some kind of meditative. They wanted to have some kind of spiritual influence when, they would, seek to breed or to mate, to create. They didn't be married. They just simply chose individuals that seemed to have a disposition with this ancient blood or this power of the old Aryan. So they would breed them. The idea again was to do rituals in the sense of inducting them. Well, it became more and more pronounced as they developed because they sought more powers. They sought, and it's nothing new in the sense. If we go back to the Old Testament, when the king of Moab weaponized demonic powers, he sought powers to come on his troops to beat Israel. So this concept is a demonic thing. So they did do this in the context of rituals. And today we can go to the web. We couldn't do this back in the 80s and 90s, but now we can go to the web because most of our stuff came from confiscated from victims that brought us stuff, took us to locations, books and shadows, materials, or discussions with sub-personalities who spoke fluent German that were completely in line with the coming or things like that. So they began to tell us, show us the art book, the books, materials, and at times even draw for us out of locations, ritual, and explain to us what they would do. So in their version of this, they would have pre-conception rituals where the man and the woman were both going to be demonized. There would be rituals that would conjure or call or summon a demon to be released into the womb. What they would believe, they were trying to time this in the context of conception, so that prior to, but at the moment of conception. And their goal, Josh, yes, was to alter the genetics, alter DNA, to infuse. So instead of just a possessed individual, they wanted something altered. Again, and all of our research, 28 years later, on it was, they're really trying to recreate or genetically alter with the goal of the Nephilim DNA. That's been their version of it. So now anybody with anyone on that's an SRA, satanic ritual abuse individual, they're going to find out that, they've been to many rituals. Marriage to the Beast in September, all 6-year-old girls go to it. We had Hands of Glory just a week or so ago. All during the year, you'll see now every month has multiple satanic rituals listed. And all of those on a worldwide scale, anyone in the United States that's got this satanic ritual victimization background, they all know this. They've all been there. And anybody who's been working with them knows this. So the goal is summon demon, release it into, for example, we know about programming, kind of like hypnosis. The best way I can explain is hypnosis. When somebody would hypnotize another person, put them down in a sense, and say you're going to sing like Elvis Presley, or you're going to do this or that on stage. Everybody laughs. The person does it. The hypnotist, says, on the count of 3, you're going to come out of this. You won't remember, and they don't for a while remember what they just did. Well, this is creating a permanent substate, an alter personality. And then when they begin to develop this personality, they might create this one to be an assassin or shooter or sex slave or a ritual summoner or runner or enforcer. So they have different, when they split a person's personality, their goal is to program it for what they want within what is called the system inside. Then with the programming, then they want to summon a demon and infuse it into that personality, put that personality down by code, so that it's inside. And the main person, this is their intent anyway, is not even supposed to know. That main individual is not even supposed to know what's inside of them. But if a coven member, handler as they're called, would call out the trigger or call on the phone and give the trigger, the sub-personality with that trigger phrase would come up. And we've seen this happen hundreds of times. We under the codes can again be tones and voice commands, even sometimes written stuff or timing. We had a federal officer's wife that at 11 o'clock every night, no matter where we were, trying to keep her away from rituals. We didn't realize it at first, but all of a sudden she would just switch personality to a runner who would, whether they're sitting in the car or anything else, they would just simply open the door, roll out, and run. We would never, they were faster, stronger. We could not catch them. And we realized that when the clock struck 11, digital clock, that was the trigger that pulled up the runner that was to run to a location and eventually get to a coven meeting. So it is birthed in demonic rituals, birthed in the concept. And Josh, they have, in many of them, they have hundreds of sub-personalities. And we're talking programmed shooters, just like we've seen on in the news media.
So these individuals not only still exist, but there's an organization that is still creating them. And if so, what is that organization today?
Good. Well, they call themselves the Ancient Brotherhood. And again, when we say, and now again, our research, and in coupling this with deep, the scriptures and studying prophecy and so forth over the years, and I'll be outlining this a little bit in detailed form and an update on all of this Saturday night at the conference. We're talking since they began this in the late 30s, that would have been somewhat of first generation. But when they got spread all over the world, they then, wherever they were, whether the United States or Australia or England or Scotland or Canada or wherever they were, they began to do the process there. So the first generation, what I look at right now, would be between 60 years old and 71. And we now know by secular estimates also in the United States, they believe there might be 10 million.
Whoa.
Over a 60-year period that have been developed, or a 70-year period that's been developed. So, but here's the problem. If nobody intervenes and helps these individuals, found out that their children, that they will also breed, and their children will be multiple and SRA, so that you have a second generation between basically 36, 37, 38 years old up to in the late 50s. And if nobody breaks into them, then you have you have a third generation developing from the 20s up to in the mid 30s, and now we're dealing with fourth generation 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds that are split, demonized, programmed, same stuff as in them that's in the 65-year-old. So we now have 4 generations of this. So in some cases, we have the great-grandmother, the grandmother, the mother, and the child from 8 years old all the way to 70, all of them that are multiple programmed, demonized personalities, and it does go back to it's kind of hard, if we could think in terms of like just Masons, for example, they have 56,000 temples in the United States. They're in every single city, every single township, and that's by design. They've done that by design. It's an occult project that they have. But if you drop down just below their secrecy, I believe we have another level that is ultimately what we call shadow government, or what we call the new world order that's coming.
Sir, hold on one second. I'm up against another break. We'll continue this on the other side. Don't go anywhere, folks. All right, we are talking to Russ Dizdar. He's going to be one of the featured speakers at Hear the Watchman, so make sure you are watching that in some way, shape, or form, either live by coming to Knoxville and joining us, or if you cannot make it there, you can live stream it as well. Just go to hearthewatchman.com. Hearthewatchman.com, click on the live stream, and sign up that way. Enter code word Tully. They'll knock off $10 for you. All right, so Russ, I mean, we're at the end of September, heading into October. Everybody's familiar with Halloween. I have heard that pet stores stopped selling some pets to people around Halloween. That satanic rituals still exist. You mentioned the 53,000 Masonic temples around the country. Is there still that element? Are there still satanic rituals and cults in America? And if so, how do we tell if they're in our neighborhood?
Very good. I mean, this is part of back in the 80s when we dealt with it back then. I mean, the rise of like Anton LaVey, the Church of Satan, by the thousands and thousands, that organization was growing. Well, that was a popular thing because it got intertwined with music, and a lot of like Slayer and groups got into that, and eventually Marilyn Manson. So you have a lot of that kind of popular Satanism, books, materials, music. It's all over the web, of course. But then you've gotten into, that's just a popular level. Then you drop down a tier, you go to traditional Satanism, Cathedral of the Black Goat in Los Angeles. Father Meridon put out a book called The Devil's Bible. It describes how to do rituals and, surrender to Satan, know him personally, renounce God, and become a part of their system of it. And they do real satanic rituals. Now, when you move away from that, you get to satanic groups that have been around, all the way
it's the
back
brain
to
research
Europe,
to advancing innovative neurotechnologies.
Even
it's an initiative that he
Crowley,
gave $100,000, $100 million
is larger now in the world than it ever was when he was alive.
He announced it at the April State of the Union address.
Multiple satanic style groups or dark
basically will produce pictures of your brain showing how individual brain cells and complex neural circuits interact with the speed of thought, explore how the brain records, processes, and stores and retrieves vast quantities of information, and the links between that and between brain function and behavior. And DARPA is actually working on that. At the same time they're working on that, they're working on building robots with real brains and a different project called the Physical Intelligence Program.
AMTS Scottish Radio. Saying what you think, but are too afraid to say. Oh my god, girl, it's fucking hard already. Don't be scared.
Human brain that they're going to put into a robot. So it goes right back to Kurzweil that we talked about last hour.
AMTS Scottish Radio. Saying what you think, but too afraid to say. God, would ya?